evening. I'm Socrates Garrett, and we're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South, right here in the African-American-owned broadcasting studio. We believe digital.com, our own platform. And so it's critically important that in the African-American community, we control the narrative. Good evening, and welcome to Socrates Garrett Live. It's been a moment since I've been on the air. I've been really doing some wonderful things. I've been enjoying myself and trying to make a difference in our community and doing a little self-checking, trying to figure out exactly what it is that I really want to do. We have so many different opportunities here in this life until it's difficult to get all of the things that you have a passion for to get those things done. But since I've been on the air, I have had the wonderful experience of running for mayor of this great city of Jackson. And I'm going to talk more and more about that as the shows go on and on. Now, we're broadcasting live all over the world. We're being seen in over 139 countries. My friends in Vietnam, welcome to our program this evening. Those in China, those in Russia, all over the world, you can pick this show up via We Believe Digital. Now, we are a broadcasting streaming network, more of a streaming service than broadcasting. Let me retract on that. We are a streaming service. And though we have the internet radio to go along with our podcast shows, and so we are, in fact, a wonderful media company. Now, we haven't been doing this for 35, 40 years, so you can expect some glitches along the way. And I think that's the beautiful part about going live. I don't have an opportunity to correct what I may say or what I may leave out. This is a live show, and it comes out the way it does. I hope you can appreciate the authenticity of a show like this when we go live. Now, We Believe Digital streaming service. It's bringing back a brand new opportunity for us to tell the news about what's going on in our community. Those stories that others look over or dare not tell, we here at We Believe Digital will bring you that information. But tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about Socrates Garrett and the making of an entrepreneur. You see, I am a serial entrepreneur. I don't play at this. I do this every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, only taking Saturday and Sunday for a little time for R&R. And with the heat being what it is in Jackson, Mississippi today, it felt like it was 115 degrees out there. And when you get a little bit older and your skin gets a little bit thinner, you can't take the heat the way that you used to. And so I found myself, looking for shade or looking for some way to protect myself from the heat. But I run a construction company, so I can't just say that, hey, it's time to take a break, because I expect those that are working for me and with me to stay on the job. I think that we ought to drink a lot of water. We ought to make sure that we are not dehydrated in any way, but we must get the job done. I tell the crew often that it does not rain in the Army. I was in the Army from 1969 to 1971, and my drill sergeant said to me that we are going to be going out for 3 weeks in the desert in Mojave, California, to do a stint. And I said, well, what if it rains? He said, it does not rain in the Army, young man. It rains on the Army. No excuses. We're running 3 miles, 5 miles a day, carrying an M16 with a backpack on that weighed more than I did. And we had to keep that pace up for hours and hours and hours. Now, the interesting thing about that is I was in California, where I got inducted into the Army. And I was there, and when I got to basic training, I find myself being maybe 2 or 3 African Americans in the whole platoon that I was assigned to. And then I was appointed or selected as drill sergeant of the platoon. So with the drill sergeant, we do the cadences, we sing the songs, about, ain't no need of going home. Jody got your girl and gone. Am I right or wrong? You're right. And so we would sing those cadences, and we would march through that desert, and we were running so hard until one of my soldiers fell out. He just fell flat out on his face. And so as a platoon leader, I said, someone get the medic, because we always had a medic in the platoon. Someone get the medic. We could never find the medic. I said, well, roll him over, soldier. He rolled him over, and it was the medic. And so you have to have these events in your life that lets you know, regardless of what you're going to come against, what's going to come against you, that you have to overcome it, that you have to be prepared to take it on come hell or high water and get the job done. I will never forget the first order that you're given when you enter the United States Army. And that is that I will never leave my post until properly relieved. I don't give a damn how long or who missed their shift or when they didn't come. My job was to stay there until I'm properly relieved. Now, I don't mean to tell all these military stories much longer, but I have to make a few points about discipline and integrity. That's where we're going. You see, the drill sergeant told me, he said, young man, soldier, I am going to give you an instruction, and I want you to follow it immediately. No questions asked. You do exactly what I tell you. Now, I'm, arrogant. I'm feeling myself. I'm not used to taking orders. And so, he looked at me and he said, I can tell you're having some problems with this order. I said, well, not really. He said, well, let me explain to you why you need to follow this order. He said, because if I tell you to roll to your left and you don't do it immediately, you will be dead. That's how serious this is. You given an order, you carry it out to the fullest extent of your ability, and you never give up anything but your name, rank, and serial number. You can find that on my dog tags that I wear around my neck. I have no idea about who my commanding officers are or where my platoon is located. I don't give up any information to the enemy at all. And that's the way we find ourselves in business. Out here we have so-called enemies, and we have some call them haters, and we have people that give other people of a different opposition or different persuasion, they give them various names. But our job in business and in life is to overcome whatever comes up against you, period. No excuses, no looking back, no second guessing. Get it done. I often tell the story about Michael Jackson, one of my favorite basketball players. And he wasn't my favorite basketball player because of the way he played the game, because I was not a Chicago Bull fan. I was a Detroit Piston fan with Isaiah Thomas and the boys over there in Lambeer. And I like those kind of athletes because they played rough. And they would kind of elbow you and push you around. And they had the nomenclature of being the bad boys. I like Detroit Pistons, and I also like the Oakland Raiders for the same reason. America didn't see them as America's great team like they did the Dallas Cowboys. They saw them as, the more unsophisticated, violent kind of people. And I find myself watching violent movies on Netflix and other services for the same reason. Somehow I'm drawn to that. I will pray about it. I do go to church every Sunday, but I'll still pray about it. I don't know what it is in my disposition that makes me enjoy those kinds of things. But I find that it's absolutely necessary to be able to take this contact sport in business and in life. You have to be drawn to it, and you have to enjoy the violence. And therefore, you prepare yourself for the war each and every day. Now, we're going to talk about the making of an entrepreneur. But first, I want to go and recognize a few people. You know, I want to send a shout out to Dr. Eldridge Henderson, a man that did a podcast show with me for many, many years. Organize, Don't Criticize, and he's got his book out there on Amazon now. And I look forward to having Dr. Henderson back in this studio with me. Doris Lewis, a young lady down in Biloxi who is a warrior from way back, fighting the war from Chicago to Biloxi and everything in between. People like that, you know, I'm drawn to. You know, I want to send a shout out to my friend Arthur Meredith, who was one of my largest contributors and supporters in my campaign for mayor. I appreciate his friendship. He and I entered Xerox Corporation in 1973 at the same time. Doing affirmative action, Xerox was hiring a lot of black people. And so we both joined that great company back in 1973. I didn't stay with Xerox long because my grandfather and my father were both entrepreneurs, and I knew that I was born to run my own business, to be my own man, to remember and recite the Invictus poem every day, that I am the master of my faith. Unbowed, maybe bloody, but unbowed. And so I know that I had to leave Xerox Corporation after a short period. So I stayed 7 years there and rose rapidly through the ranks because God blessed me with the ability to talk. He didn't bless me with a lot of other things. I wish I would have been a great singer. I love to sing, but I don't have a voice for it. And he didn't bless me with the height that he gave my oldest brothers. All of my sisters are taller than I am, and I could always wanted to be able to dunk a basketball with a thundering dunk in your face. Oh, I just would have loved to have had that experience. But I don't have it, and I won't ever get that. But, you know, he did bless me with the ability to think. And he blessed me with great work ethics. I think he blessed me with that, but my grandfather might have had something to do with that. You see, my grandfather was born there in Madison County. His house sat on the Madison County and Lee County line. If you were in his dining room, you were in Madison County. And if you were in his living room, you were in Lee County. He hid out down in the swamps during the great removal when all of the Choctaws were moved out of Mississippi over to Oklahoma. And those that were not moved were hiding out in the Mississippi swamp. There are people in the swamp down in Mississippi today that the world has never seen. They've never been out of the swamp. They can get bit by snakes, alligator, and it don't faze them. They just keep walking. And so my grandfather was down in that area of that hill, and he had 5 boys. All 5 of his boys ran away from home before they were 18 because the old man was putting some serious heat down. My mother was married 2 years before her daddy found anything about it because she dare not even tell him that she had gotten married. Because the old man was serious. He would say things like, God, if I could get my hands on you right now. And he meant that. So I appreciate that kind of tough love that I got from him. So let's get back to where I was. So We're going to take a station break here in a few seconds, and so we want our engineers and everyone to get ready because we're going to go to a break right after these comments. You see, tough love is something that is much needed, and that's what we're missing today. We're soft today. We want our boys to be feminized. We want them to show that they can cry, and we want them to show that they have compassion and they have love for their fellow human being. It's different than when I came up. We were taught to kill. You know, we were taught to give everything a fighting chance. If a rabbit was in the bed, I wouldn't shoot him in the bed. We'd have to make him run and then kill him. Everything had to be under your domain. God gave us dominion over all things. He gave it to mankind, and we should never forget that that's what he expected us to do, is have that dominion over all things. We're going to station break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's 6 o'clock and it's time for Bus Stop News, bringing you the Bus Stop Report live here in Jackson, Mississippi. The Bus Stop Report here on Bus Stop News. The Bus Stop Report is highlighting all of your local and national news, entertainment, news, and gossip. The Bus Stop Report here on Bus Stop News. Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee. To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co.
We're back. We had a great first segment of the show. We talked about a lot of things, but I want to go back and thank some more of those people that have been important in my life, those people that have helped me become the man that I am. I want to give a shout out to my sisters. I have a sister in Sacramento, California, Ethel Odessa Garrett, who is suffering with this crippling disease called dementia. And I pray for her every day that she regains the ability to remember things and that she will always remember that she is much loved, that her family loves her, and that her support system out in Sacramento is one of the finest that she could ever get. Her daughters out there take amazing care of her. And so I wanted her to know that we're thinking about her even today on this show. My other sister, Minnie Garrett, recently had a stroke here in Jackson, Mississippi. Now this is hard for me because I'm accustomed to losing males in the family, but females seem to live forever. I have my aunts. One is 101, one is 98, and one is 96, and they just live a long time. So for my sisters to be ill is kind of a setback for us. I lost my oldest brother, and I lost my youngest brother. And so I'm hoping and praying that Minnie, that you're doing better, that you're getting stronger, and that you regain full control of all of your physical being. Now, we talked about some other people, and I'm studying every day because, you have to determine, you have to figure out how this thing is going. So I'm studying people, and I watch a lot on YouTube. And when I'm not playing chess, I'm a pretty good chess player, by the way. Anybody out there that want to play me online, you're welcome to do that. But I'm pretty good. But I watched this guy, Geno Jenkins, and I can't really get a feel for this pastor as to where he's really coming from. I know he's different, and I know he's saying some things that not popular. I don't know exactly what his end game is, if it's to save us or to motivate us to save ourselves. I'm one that believes that you got to save yourself, and to the extent that you do that, you will be blessed. Now, let's go back here. We're talking about making of an entrepreneur. So I came up under strong black leadership. Now, I came out of Madison County and born in 46. I came out of Madison County, but remember I told you that my granddaddy worked for himself. Actually, he brought the first sawmill into Madison County. Black or white, he brought the first sawmill into Madison County. I remember that he had to buy wagons just to get the rubber to go on his car. Now, you got me right, his cars. My daddy was born in 1910. My grandfather was born about 1850. And so he didn't have a African-American father. His mother was African-American, but his father was Caucasian. So he didn't have any inheritance, and anybody at that time, if you didn't own land, then you were nobody. Black folk owned sections of land. And so my grandfather didn't have a father that he could relate to. So some would call him a bastard child, but it wasn't that, because he knew who his daddy was. He couldn't acknowledge that. But anyway, he knew that he had to hustle. He grew up and started a lot of businesses in that community in Madison County. As I said, he started the first sawmill, ordered it out of Sears and Roebuck catalog and put it together. Ordered his cars. He became a minister. He built churches all over the state of Mississippi. Now get this, now in 1910, he owned land in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, in Canton, Mississippi, in Farm Haven, Mississippi. He started churches and built buildings in Buffalo, that's up near Kosciuszko, Mississippi, where we'd go to Center to church up there. If you go up there, his name is on the marquee. We would go up to Philadelphia, Mississippi, with the Bats up there in Philadelphia, and old man Germany, a white gentleman over there who tried to help African Americans that was run out of the state of Mississippi, burned out and ran out of here. And so my grandfather was trying to get it done. Sometimes not having all that others have can be an inspiration for you. Sometimes I think our children are soft because we made them that way, because we gave them everything that we possibly could. And I get it, the reason why we did that is because we wanted them to have a better life and better head start than what we had. Not realizing that the struggle, and I told my children this, struggle builds courage and confidence. So the more struggle you have, the better the chances that you're going to grow up and be able to deal with what the world's going to bring against you. And believe me, the world's going to bring some things against you. It's going to be hard. And so my grandfather knew that, he had to hustle. So he started all these churches, became a minister, and then he went into the largest landowner in Madison County of African American persuasion and married one of his daughters. Now, that was probably a pretty good move because now he would have an inheritance of land through her, and he could begin to farm, and he could grow cattle, and he can do all those other things that people with land could do. But she died. Didn't live long. She passed away. Now, grandfather was sitting there with the same situation that he had in the very beginning. He didn't have nothing. Didn't have no daddy. Didn't have no brothers. He didn't have anything. So what did he do? He went in that same household and married the next sister. Now, I think you got to be committed to your goals and your objectives and your agenda. Do I think that he was just in love with one sister and the next sister? No, I don't think that. I think what he did was he knew that he had to have access to land in order to become the man that he wanted to be, and I think that's why he stayed in that same family. My great-grandfather on the other side, of course, he didn't think too much of that, and he didn't want him to have his daughter, but he married her anyway. And he had 9 children. And so we started doing work in Madison County, cutting lumber, hauling logs, building houses. But that he didn't farm. He didn't farm because Granddaddy didn't farm. So we didn't have that experience of the sharecroppers. I never picked any cotton for anybody else other than my mother and my father. And my father picked very little of that. He was so terrible at farming until he planted 18 acres of cotton one year and he made 4 bales. Everybody else would have made 30 bales or more. He only made 4. But he did build houses, and he did own equipment, and he did work for himself. Never had a job a day in his life working for a man. So I come out of that, and I knew then that, I too would more than likely follow in his footsteps. And I tell this story often because as a boy, I would try to follow in his footsteps, and of course, as a little boy, his gait was so wide until I couldn't follow in his footsteps. I would have to run and jump to get in his footsteps. So I'd jump and I'd jump and I'd jump in my father's footsteps. But a strange thing happened as I got older. I thought that those footsteps would become closer, give me the ability to just walk in them. But as I got older, I realized that they became further and further apart. The gap was widening. The man that he was and the man that I was likely to become was becoming more and more difficult for me to achieve. So I knew I had to hurry. Now, I didn't go marry 2 sisters, but I knew I had to hurry. So I had that great tutelage of black leadership, male leadership. You see, back in that time, black men didn't think too much about what a woman had to say. My uncle would say that a woman is to look good and smell good. But they just didn't think too much about that. And so we find even today that some remnants of that still exist, where some black pastors say that a woman cannot preach, cannot lead, because they come out of that environment. So I had strong black male leadership in my life, but now Madison County in the 1950s and 1960s was a mean place to live for African American males. every Sunday morning, we would have to go to the jail in Rankin County down in the silo to get my brothers out of jail, where they had been put in there for doing absolutely nothing. I was told on many nights that I better be out of Canton, Mississippi before dark. I remember when black men couldn't go back into projects during the day. Black women were there, but black men couldn't go back in there. It was rough. Yeah, we have all of the incidents that the world knows about. That's killing of Emmett Till and Vernon Damer and Medgar Evers. But there were hundreds of black men that were being assaulted and murdered. So my mother said that she knew that her boys wasn't likely to be able to survive in this environment. So she packed us all up and she sent us down to Piney Wood School. Now, I hated leaving my father. I'm 15 years old and I'm just coming into my manhood. I'm coming into an area where I'm driving now. My girlfriend lives all the way up in Pickens, Mississippi. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to go. I knew where I was. I knew that this is where I wanted to be. But anyway, she packed all my clothes and moved me to Piney Woods. Now, when I got there, I studied under Lawrence C. Jones, a black man, strong black man, that created Piney Woods School. He said that if you have a log, and on the one end of the log, you have a student. On the other end, you got a teacher. In the middle, you got a book. You have a university. He built Piney Woods from nothing to a major boarding school, probably one of 3 remaining in the whole country today. So I studied under Lawrence C. Jones, and I watched him and how he operated and what he did. I was there when he aired the program, This Is Your Life. And the world knows about Piney Woods. But I left there and I went to Alcorn State University. Again, Dr. Boyd, a strong black man under the tutelage of Dr. Boyd. So here I come now. I come out of my granddaddy. I come out of my daddy. I'm now down here at Lawrence C. Jones. Now I'm under the tutelage of Dr. Boyd. Now I graduate. I go out to California. I don't go get a traditional job. I go to Watts, California, and I start working for a black man in a sewing factory where we put together wire harnesses and things of that nature. Under strong tutelage of a black man. Got drafted, went into the Army, came back out of there, came back into the environment of working for black folk. So I'm trained up. I'm ready to go. I'm geared up for the fight. I got everything that I need. And so I started working for Xerox Corporation, as I said. And then after a few years of that experience, I knew I had to get out of there and go back into my destiny. So in 1980, 1969, 1971, I'm in this man's army. 1971 to 1973, I'm working for the Pacific Gas Company in California. 1973, I'm at Xerox Corporation in Jackson, Mississippi. In 1980, I leave Xerox Corporation. I start K&S Chemical Manufacturing Company. Now, don't get me wrong. I did not want to be a wholesaler or distributor. I knew that I needed to be able to produce. The only way that I was going to be able to get a toehold in the marketplace was to produce my own products. There were a lot of wholesalers and distributors, but there was no producer. So I became the first manufacturer of industrial chemicals of African American persuasion in 1980. Now, I stayed there for 7 years. For 7 years, I could not make that business work. I found myself in a situation where I had borrowed $300,000 from International Paper Company in New York City. That's right. I couldn't borrow any money in Mississippi from no bank. So I found my money in New York City. So I borrowed $300,000 from them, and I started that business. I could not make that business work. This is a strange thing about that. It's not that I didn't work it. It's not that I didn't give it everything that I had. It's not that I wasn't smart. It is not that I wasn't committed. It's the marketplace wasn't ready for a black man's product. The marketplace still is not ready for a black man's product. But go back to 1980 and think about that then. Now, you know, we take on great challenges in life. Now, here I am, want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start my own manufacturing company in Jackson, Mississippi. In Mississippi, the poorest state in the Union with the most racial divisive history of any other state in the world, and yet I want to start there and build a business. I'll second guess that decision for the rest of my life. Because I know if I had started in Seattle, or if I had started somewhere in Idaho, or if I had started somewhere where there was less bigotry and less hatred, then I would have become one of Fortune's 500 largest companies. I already know that. But I didn't. And I wonder, why did I do it here? Why I always return here? It's something about the land. It's something about the rich heritage and history of African Americans in Mississippi. It's something about overcoming the greatest oppression that the world has ever seen in the U.S. I can't speak to Africa and apartheid and all of that. But in America, Mississippi was the ground zero. And so I wanted to do it here because I could visit the cemeteries back in Madison County, and I could go there and look at the headstone of my relatives dating back to 1790. And I could chronicle the struggle all the way up to me. And that history just draws you and says, you got to do it here. You got to fight the fight here. You can't take the easy way out. You got to try to make a difference here. And so I tried. After 7 years, I had to close that business. I had lost everything that I had. I had to declare bankruptcy, and the business failed. 1988, I started a new business. I started a business because I wanted to start a media company, because I realized that the black man had no voice. Now let's get straight about this. The Jackson Advocate is the oldest newspaper in Mississippi. But the Advocate, like most black people, dealt with social issues. So somebody's got to deal with social issues. I get that. But that's not who I am. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman trying to make it. I'm not here to fight the fight of integration and fight the fight of social injustice. I'm not here to fight that fight. I'm here to fight the fight of the economics of our people, which I believe keeps us in poverty more than anything else, because we denied the opportunity to have an economy. You see, the white man will give you his woman and his whiskey, but he will not share his money. He will not share that. So I realized that, what I was attempting to do was going to be extremely difficult. So in 1988, I started a media company to have a voice to say that it's wrong for the city of Jackson and the state of Mississippi to not do business with African Americans. We get less than 1/10 of 1% of businesses for goods and services in this state. And still the same today. 50 years later, we get less than 1% of the business for goods and services from our state. So I'm still fighting that same fight. So I started this newspaper called Today's Mississippi. And Roy Dixon was on the cover. Roy Dixon was an African-American man that brought the first manufacturing of skins to the state of Mississippi. And that product is still being sold today. Roy got it from a black man down on Ferry Street that was making skins in the big black kettles and the big black pots, the way black folk knew how to make skins. I doubt any black boys today know how to make skins. But Dixon did that, and I put him on the cover of that newspaper. And so I then got a call one day, and they said I could no longer publish Today's Mississippi because it belonged to the Catholic Church. They said, I'm having enough trouble right now trying to make it. I can't take on the Pope and his clan. So we're going to change the name. We'll change the name and call it Today's Mississippi, Tomorrow South. And we roll along with that newspaper, me and Chuck Williams and Jimmy. I forget Jimmy's last name right now. And Jimmy and Chuck and I roll along right there till we had a little fight. And I decided that, you see, poor people shouldn't go in business together. Because we're going to fight about the money. It's just not enough to go around. We can't feed 3 households out of no money. So eventually that ended, and I started another publication called The Missing Link. Now, I started The Missing Link as a newspaper designed to fight the economic disparities in our state. But my fraternity brother that was running the Jackson Advocate, Charles Tisdale, didn't like the fact that I started another publication, so he set out to make absolutely certain that we were not successful. So the first thing he did was to say that the missing link is that period of time where man evolved from ape to man. I mean, the evolution of man came from ape, and during that period, in Darwin's theory, he called that the missing link. And he said that's what the newspaper was about. Well, it was not about that. And they did horrible articles. I know that the Advocate ran an article once that said that I was part of the Klan that killed the civil rights workers in Philadelphia. Just crazy crap. It's designed just to stop and put you out of business. Denied membership into the National Newspaper Association, said I was white on. It's just crazy. But we prevail. We remember what I told you about the Army. It don't make any difference what the opposition is or what you come against. You stay positive, you stay focused, and you keep working. Keep working. And so, but I did decide to change the name from the Missing Link in case others thought similar. So I changed it to the Mississippi Link 32 years ago. And the Mississippi Link newspaper is a vibrant, valuable asset in our community. Several years ago, I went on, I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I started another business at the same time, and it was called Socrates Garrett Enterprises. So when I started Socrates Garrett Enterprises, then I decided that I could no longer devote the kind of time necessary to the Mississippi Link. So I gave that business to the now publisher and owner, Jackie Hampton, and my sister, Minnie Garrett. And I think that's what we ought to do. I think that we ought to give the businesses to those young people that have the time and energy and the desire to make it work. Now, I decided then to do Socrates Garrett Enterprises, and it became a real successful company. We did joint ventures with major companies all over the world. I had a joint venture with HMS Host Marriott to run the sports bar at the Jackson Municipal Airport. I had a joint venture with Severn Trent out of London, England, to run water treatment systems in Mississippi. A joint venture is different. You see, most elected officials and most advocacy groups advocate that we need black jobs. Even in the presidential race, you heard the slogan that the presidential candidacy, is that one of them black jobs, being president. But my position is we don't need black jobs, we need black ownership and black equity. Equity is different than a job. Until we go back and own things the way we did in the very beginning. Remember, I told you that blacks owned sections of land. They produced everything that they needed. They didn't have no jobs. Remember, I told you that my daddy never worked a day in his life for anybody else. What we need is our own economy. My idol, and I have two idols, heroes that I deal with. One is Marcus Garvey. Why Marcus? 1909. Why Marcus? Because Marcus said, I want a fleet of ships, and I want to sail to Liberia from New York, and I want to take my people back to Africa. And it didn't make him any difference whether he took whites or blacks back to Africa. He ran a shipping company. You know what happened to Marcus? He was shut down and deported and ran out of this country. Mail fraud. The other one of my heroes is Reginald Lewis. Now, Reginald started Beatrice Foods, one of the largest food distributors and supplier companies in the world, international companies. Reginald wrote the book, Why Should White Boys Have All the Fun? They shouldn't. But the fun is in the economy, in the economics. The game of politics is played to control the economics. It's not played to control who goes to the swimming pool or who runs the cafeteria or who runs the school system. Is controlling the economics. And when we elect African Americans to positions, we expect them to control the economics. I often remind people that business, commerce created the government. It wasn't the other round. It wasn't the other way around. Commerce created the government, so that they could collect all of the money from the citizens, pool the money, and distribute it out to businesses of their choice. That's why it was created. If you go back and watch the Godfather movie, when the Godfather said, I'm moving my business to Cuba. Why Cuba? He said, because a business needs a friendly government. Because the government collects all of the money. Who created Boeing? Who created GE? Who created Ford? Who created all of those conglomerates? The government created them. Who created what in the black community? Not much of anything. I often say that even in Mississippi, when you look at it, where Mississippi is doing well, you find the government's footprint. Let's take, for example, it's called the Golden Triangle up in Columbus, Mississippi, up in the Tupelo area now, booming in that area, just growing, vibrant. The largest school district in the state now is in the Tupelo area. Used to be here in Jackson, but no more. When you look at Meridian, the next hub, or what's booming over in Meridian, just getting a $3 billion expansion down there now, the governor announced last month in Meridian. When you look on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, you got Ingalls down there, shipbuilding going on, government contracts. You got the Air Force Base up in Columbus, government contracts. You got the Stennis Space Center in Meridian, government contract. You got Ingalls Shipbuilding down on the south side, government contract. When you come to where African Americans reside in the 2nd Congressional District along the Mississippi River, you get casinos all up and down the Mississippi River. Tunica, poorest part of the state in the world, come out of Sugar Ditch, we used to call it up there. Black folks so poor. We have a beautiful port in Mississippi, but no economic development in Vicksburg. You see, we don't get any help. The 2nd Congressional District is the poorest congressional district in the country. Now, that means we got to fix it ourselves. We do that through creating businesses. My time is running out for this evening, so I'm going to run through things real quick, but we'll pick up on this again the next show. I created Mississippi Link. I created Socrates Garrett Enterprises. I created Garrett Enterprises. I created Garrett Enterprises Consolidated, Inc. I created New South Development and Training. I created the Next Level Experience at the Metro Center. I bought part of the Metro Center and called it Retro Metro. I created Earth Blend Coffee, where we roast our own coffee in Mississippi. I invested in a business in China, in Hong Kong. And if I could invest in a business in China, certainly I can bring the business model back to my people in Mississippi. So in this building here, we have one of the finest coffee roasting machines in the state of Mississippi and the only African-American owned roasting company in the Southeast. Earth Blend Coffee. I created We Believe Digital. We were the first one to have a podcast studio, a build-out studio, commercial studio. The very first one. Even if I go back to the Mississippi Link newspaper, we were the very first company to have a website. in the media industry in Mississippi. Very first one. Now, again, this is not fertile ground. If you're an entrepreneur, and I understand why you're here, because it's the same reason I am. It's hard. You're in the poorest state in the nation, and you're trying to build a business. It can be done. You got to remember what I said about the Army. Don't reign in the Army. It reigns on the Army. This has been Socrates Garrett Live. Look forward to coming to you again soon. Stay tuned and stay safe. Good night.